Hi, and welcome to the fourth episode of Kanga News. Today's episode is in a slightly different format because we have a guest, Robert from Kanga team. Good to see you, Robert.
Good to see you. Hello.
Robert, you just came back from Paris, is that right?
Yeah, we've been in Paris for almost a whole week. 3 days, 12 hours a day, very intense, very many people approaching the
Okay,
Kanga
what was
stand.
the event again?
The event was Paris Blockchain Week. It's actually the biggest conference in Europe, the biggest blockchain conference in Europe. So it was a big event. Mainly the companies approaching us were about launchpads, and it was actually loads and loads of gaming companies. So if you are a lot into crypto, if you're a lot into the environment, actually you should take a look at the launchpads of the gaming in the gaming industry. Because of NFTs, gaming environment is becoming very, very crypto friendly. So yeah, definitely you should, follow our social media, subscribe, and follow the newsletter. We will shortly have new projects coming into the Kanga exchange. Also, very many companies approaching us. It was all about on-ramp and off-ramp. Now, especially now that we are going into Asia from Europe, if you're from outside Europe, which is likely, then in a short period of time, you should expect our new functionalities to make it a lot easier for you to interact with Kanga via normal currencies. So on-ramp and off-ramp also was there, very strong.
That sounds very exciting, and it's really great to know that Kanga is expanding so much internationally. So that was last week, Paris Blockchain Week. This week, Sławek and Łukasz are in Dubai. They're also having free conferences that they are taking part in over there. And but let's move on to the news, okay? So I think I would like to start with the events in the Middle East and the problems with Bitcoin that are happening because of that. What is your view on the situation?
Well, actually, if you go for my personal view on the situation, I would expect, because of what is happening, cryptocurrencies to go up, especially Bitcoin. Because, we remember the situation that happened in Ukraine. And we are actually, as the Kanga team, we are very proud that we have helped thousands of people because cryptocurrency is pretty much the only asset that isn't controlled. So if there is a war, if there is a global conflict of some sort, the only safe way to store your money, to store the value, is the cryptocurrencies, because nobody's going to take that away from you. Yeah, so I understand the concept of people moving away from all sorts of assets towards natural resources, people investing in gold that went up because of the current political situation. But if you asked me before what happened about the result, I would say crypto is going to go up because people understand that crypto is, the only way to store money. If you listened to me back then, don't always listen to me, always focus on your own blockchain, on-chain analysis. Yeah, but generally this is what I would expect to happen. So crypto went down, definitely more than I expected. The Bitcoin went down something like 15% in literally a very short period of time. I still imagine this is just a correction. So I still imagine this is temporary. This is because people are moving to natural resources, as I said. But yeah, for me, this was actually a big surprise.
In the long term, you're convinced that they are going to go up?
Yes, definitely, because also of the halving that we will talk about in a couple of minutes.
Yes, we'll move on to the halving in a moment, but before we get to that, I wanted to talk about the ETFs that have been just approved in Hong Kong. We've been talking here on this channel for quite a bit about the ETFs that have been approved in the United States, but now we have a similar situation happening in Hong Kong. Could you comment on that a little bit?
So this situation is actually very interesting because China banned crypto some time ago, and that was big. That was an event that influenced the whole market, and some people obviously started talking about crypto coming to an end, which is not happening, definitely not. So it's kind of funny that from all the countries in the world, you have the United States, obviously, accepting ETFs, and afterwards, Hong Kong. Of all countries you could potentially have, you have this one country that is under the Chinese jurisdiction. I mean, obviously we understand that they are independent in their decisions, sort of, but let's be honest, China not only knows about them going into ETFs, crypto, but it approves Hong Kong going to the ETFs in crypto. So this is interesting because you would ask yourself, okay, so China, the big China, is banning cryptocurrencies, and then suddenly Hong Kong is accepting ETFs. Now my theory, which you don't have to agree with, is basically there are some people in China, I mean government, politicians, rich people, people in China, they are buying loads of assets, including real estates abroad, in the United States included, and the political situation between China and United States, not very happy. So they need some way to purchase the assets in other continents, maybe not so official. If they go officially, it can cause maybe some problems. Well, I wouldn't know so much, but crypto is apparently the safest way to do it, obviously. So I imagine that loads of cryptocurrencies, loads of unofficial money that is in China will go through Hong Kong in some way. So I imagine that the Hong Kong ETFs are going to be pumped up with a very serious amount of money from China. I think it's very political. So this is my take on it. That's the reason.
What I wanted to ask, because you're talking about large sums of money, and the United States, it was a massive influx into Bitcoin. But here, do you think it's going to be similar?
Okay, let's be serious. Like when we talk about the numbers, when we talk about macroeconomics, when we're talking about United States, we're talking, pretty much the whole economical world being able to invest in cryptocurrencies and going that direction. When we're talking about Hong Kong, we're talking about a fraction of that. It's a big political interesting step for China, if we consider the Chinese market. But I've got a couple of quotes. There is an analyst from Bloomberg, Eric Balchunas, who gave us 4 reasons, in my opinion, very rational reasons, why the impact of Hong Kong ETFs will not be as big, not even close, as what happened in the United States. So let me just read you a couple of quotes, give you a little comment on that. So the first reason, he gave 4 reasons. The first reason was, latest on Hong Kong spot Bitcoin ETFs, they have been approved to exist but not launched yet. Rumor has it launching next week, so not to compete with Dubai conference. Don't expect a lot of flows. I saw one estimate of 25 billion. That's insane. We think they will be lucky to get 500 million on board. Yeah, so the expectation generally, I don't know the source, but $25 billion were mentioned. He says 500 million, so $500 million maximum. This is the reasons. Hong Kong ETF market is tiny. It's only around $50 billion. So in no way you can compare this to the economy of United States. So generally it's a tiny market, and Chinese locals cannot buy these, at least officially. So this is the thing. You've got Hong Kong accepting ETFs, but you've got China that officially cannot go to these ETFs. So as I said before, my take is it's gonna happen unofficially from people who can actually unofficially do it. But we're not people. When people think Hong Kong, people think, okay, so China is going into crypto. No, it's not the case. Hong Kong is going into crypto. That's a much smaller market than China. So it's not going to be a move like United States as the whole country. So that's number one. We have to remember this is just Hong Kong. Crypto in China is still banned, still not happening. Number 2, the 3 issuers that were approved, Bosea, China AMC, Harvest, are tiny. No big fish like BlackRock is involved yet. So, we're talking Hong Kong is accepting ETFs. We have to look at the institutions. It's not big institutions, not just yet. Yeah, so it's going to be a niche for now. The underlying ecosystem, that's number 3. The underlying ecosystem, there is less liquid efficient. These ETFs will likely see wide spreads and prem discounts. And actually, number 4 is similar. The fees on these likely to be about 1-2%, nowhere near the cheap fees in the US Terrodome. Basically, there's going to be bigger fees, and the market is, it's pretty much like comparing, let's say, the Hong Kong stock exchange to Nasdaq or something. We are still comparing United States versus a small country that's Hong Kong. So that's not a comparison we can make. It's definitely going to be a smaller movement, but in terms of volume, it's not as big. In terms of, the political situation, it's actually very interesting, and I think it's going to be very loud because all of countries, again, Hong Kong accepting ETFs, that's very interesting given the fact that China banned them not so long ago.
I see. So you think it's more important because it's going to prompt other countries to make similar moves in terms of politics?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got the two biggest. It would be silly for China to now accept the ETFs. So we've got United States, so China couldn't do it. They did it through Hong Kong. We could only wonder which country's next. So the obvious consequence of other countries accepting ETFs widely will be cryptocurrency prices going up. Yeah, so this is a very good moment to mention that you should definitely, register on Kanga, and you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies on the exchange.
Okay, perfect. And the next piece of news that I wanted to discuss is that there are some rumors that there's been some really big movements in Bitcoin wallets, on like really old Bitcoin wallets from the era of Satoshi Nakamoto. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so 17 Bitcoins were moved from literally a very old wallet, as you said, towards to the exchange, and 33 Bitcoins were moved from one wallet to the other. I don't really have much of a comment. I mean, we've seen these movements in the past as well, so they haven't impacted the market too much. I don't believe it's going to happen now. Always an interesting news, always an interesting story. All I can say is I've heard once a strategy. Somebody advised me on how to invest in crypto. They said the best way to invest in crypto is buy Bitcoin and go to prison, because then you're not going to sell it. So, whoever is the owner of the wallet, really, then I can only congratulate them on the patience. They are now a very rich person. This movement was relatively small. We're talking about 50 Bitcoin total moving, but generally sometimes this kind of movement is very big. So it's always a good idea to track the on-chain analysis. If you subscribe to our newsletter, then we're doing regularly on-chain analysis together with looknote.com.
Okay, so let's move on to the most exciting piece of news that I think we have. So we are so close to halving right now. This is such a big, important event happening cyclically every 4 years. What do you think? What's going on now? How is it going to affect the market?
Well, halving, trending now. The situation right now is slightly different than it was in the past. I wouldn't expect exactly the same movement as it was in previous halvings, because the political situation is different, as we have mentioned as well. So what actually happened this time is Bitcoin was on the ETH just now before the halving. It was $73,600, something like that. That was the ETH. Didn't happen before. In the previous halvings. It was usually right after the halving, Bitcoin would go down, then would go up, then the ETH would be sometime after the halving. So this time it already happened earlier than anticipated. So that's interesting already. It's different already, a different pattern. And also what happened is right before the halving, we have Bitcoin dropping by something like 15% because of the political situation that we have mentioned before. So we have two unusual factors influencing the price of Bitcoin right before halving. So it's not going to be the same as it was. All I can recommend, if you listened to me and invested in Bitcoin right before the bad news with Israel and Iran, you would lose money. So I'm not going to advise maybe anymore. But my only recommendation is track the on-chain analysis, really get into it, and do your own research. That's always the best advice. I obviously think it's going to go up. I always think that, but you should always make your own decisions. But yeah, our situation right now is very interesting comparing to previous halvings, so I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, so as Robert is saying, this halving is looking very different than the halvings that we had observed before. If you want to learn a little bit more about what halving is in general and learn about how it looked in the past, you can go to Kanga University and learn with us.
Also, I said some controversial stuff about politics, about Bitcoin, about cryptocurrencies, what's going to happen. So always learning, and as we have mentioned, I was wrong with my predictions already. So I am very, very happy to find out what you are thinking, what the audience is thinking. If you want to disagree with me in the comments, by all means, disagree with me. Let's do the predictions and analysis together. Yeah, I'm always happy to learn as long as we respect each other in the discussion. Very happy to discuss it with you. So by all means, comment, like, and subscribe, and see you in the next episodes.
Thank you very much, guys. See you in the next episode.
We are Kanga. beyond crypto.